Hi, this is Ari Kopel with Shattering the Matrix. I wanted to speak about the protection of children. This is very important because recently I just did an interview on the Beacon podcast with respect to child abduction and child trafficking and that kind of subject matter, which is extremely difficult to talk about because unfortunately it's the reality that we're living in right now. And we really need to be more proactive in taking care of our children. Really, it is up to us. So there's a lot of predators out there, and there is no reason why any child should fall victim to this sickness. And it really is a sickness. It's a dark forces, evil, demonic type of thing, virus that has engulfed the planet, and it's just everywhere. There is no place that it may not be showing up, and it comes in all kinds of forms. It could be a female, it could be a male, it could be an attorney, it could be a doctor. It doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. The sickness infects the person based on their upbringing, morals, genetic format or whatever, and it just takes over them like a virus. They find a host, and it could be a satanic possession as well, a demonic possession. So it doesn't matter how it is. It's just know that it is happening, and that our children really deserve more. And we really can't turn a blind eye just because maybe we no longer have young ones in the home. Maybe we're older, we're an empty nester, and hey, I don't have to worry about it. I hear it in the news. Wow, this is terrible. No, no, this is important because what is happening is that these forces are taking the children and doing horrible things to them with the point of keeping a dark paradigm, a dark reality to engulf this entire planet so that we never escape from this. If people are really thinking that they're going to escape this via an ascension, because cosmic rays and frequencies and the Schumann resonance and whatnot is going to catapult you out of here. I hate to break the news to you, but as long as this is in place and we are turning a blind eye, nobody's going anywhere. Okay, we're all going to be recycled together. This is the hard truth. I know a lot of you don't want to believe it, don't want to hear it, but it is the truth because we've come here with prior knowledge, prior gifts, and experience to be able to help this planet, this world, shake this loose, get rid of this horrible virus. And we're letting it happen because we're too busy thinking that we're going to be out of here. We don't have to worry about it. That's very irresponsible and very selfish. And that is the opposite of what you need to be in order to escape this matrix. So I wanted to talk about what it is that we can do to help the children, at least the ones that you know about. It could be your neighbor's kid, it could be a grandchild, could be your own child, could be a niece, okay, it could be a sister, a brother, doesn't matter. So one of the things I want to say is that there's several things, techniques or whatnot that we really should be practicing every day. And one of them is, and this goes for you as well, for the listeners out there, because you may find yourself in a situation that is similar, because you know what? Trafficking happens with adults as well. So when you are somewhere, when the moment you walk out of your home, you have to make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Always. This is a must. You can't take for granted that you just go to the curb to pick up, let's say, a newspaper, if that's a thing anymore, pick up, let's say, your mail, and not be aware of your surroundings, not be familiar with the parked cars, with a certain van that might be parked somewhere that you had not noticed before. You have to be aware of everything because you know what? This is wartime, okay? And when there's war, you have to act a little differently. You have to uh, pretty much be on top of your game. And that includes being vigilant and aware of everything around you and those that you love. So you have to look out for people and things that are out of place. If you happen to see a particular individual walking down the block that you've never seen before, feels a little suspicious, I would just suggest you come right around and get back in your home and lock the door and wait till that particular person leaves. I have had that happen to me many times, where I have been suspicious of individuals and their automobiles. And sure enough, when I, uh, you know, decided to go back home, then I would hear in a little thing called Nextdoor, which is like a neighborhood uh, internet platform where all the neighbors get together and they're able to put things down, what's happening in the neighborhood, in the street, whatever, that yes, there's been a robbery down, maybe a couple of houses. So this is the type of thing that, again, you have to be able to say, hey, this doesn't look right. Let me take the correct action. And that might be just going right back into your house and just waiting, or reporting it, or validating with other neighbors. Hey, did you see that vehicle? What do you think? Have you experienced anything? That type of thing. That's the level of um, vigilantism that has to happen, unfortunately, these days. This is no longer Mayberry RFD, where we can kick back and have our lemonade in the porch, because just people are emboldened to do bad things. They know that there's not going to be any consequences, and therefore they go for it. So again, look out for things that are out of place, people that are out of place, that don't belong. You live in a nicer neighborhood, you have people that are in there that look kind of like disheveled and kind of like rough. Well, that should tell you something. They don't belong there. They're up to probably no good. Don't get distracted. You're out and about. You're, fumbling for your keys in your purse, looking for a credit card, looking away, and the next thing you know, somebody could hurt you. They could take your purse. They could hijack the car. Take the car, take you. If you're with a child, they could, just yank the child out of your arms. That has happened many times, caught on camera, where the parents or a guardian is holding a child, and the perpetrator comes up and just yanks the child. So you've got to prevent that point, from happening. And that comes from vigilance and being aware of your surroundings and not getting distracted, especially you moms that are going to the supermarket or stores and you have, a kid, you're holding the kid, while you're walking the street, and or you're pushing a stroller and you're pushing a cart, whatever it is. If something like that is distracting you, you have a very good chance of, some perpetrator who has been watching you to take advantage of this situation because you're really not paying attention. The other thing is, don't get yourself in threatening situations. If you're walking, down the street and you may or may not be familiar with the area, but maybe the area is not that great. There's maybe homeless people, people that tend to be panhandlers. They just look rough. It's maybe a neighborhood that's not well lit. Just a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is just common sense. It's just that a lot of people, don't think that way. They walk. A lot of people walk in faith, right? And I'm saying definitely walk in faith, but let that faith and that connection to your Creator illuminate you, to give you common sense, because that's part of, being illuminated and being connected. You got to have common sense. Don't get yourself into things that will create danger for you, or danger for you and a child. Again, the children right now are the most lucrative commodity there is on the planet. And you don't want to be like walking in a neighborhood like that, flashing gold chains around your neck or gold bracelets or anything like that to call attention to yourself. A child has become more valuable to them than the gold is. So you're going to be flashing a child around, holding their hand, carrying them, having them on a stroller. You're distracted. You're walking down a street, and the perpetrator sees just cash, right? A huge amount of cash. And you're going to provide them with the opportunity to take that precious cargo, precious item, which is the child, from you. That's not a good situation to be in. So definitely don't put yourself into situations that can cause danger, especially going into areas that are not exactly the best areas that you could be in or find yourself, especially with a vulnerable little kid that is totally depending upon you for protection. Keep sharp, keep sharp. Don't get fooled. Learn to discern. And this is the capital D with discernment that I always talk about because it's a special type of discernment. And it's the discernment that comes when you're completely connected to source creator. No different than an archangel might have that kind of discernment, especially Michael, for example. Michael has to fight incredible fights with demonic forces. Michael knows probably what the demonic force's next step is going to be before they even connive, that idea of what that's going to look like. So you've got to develop that. You have to develop this sixth sense, if they're, even higher than that, because you've got to be able to think like the perpetrator thinks. Okay, so here I am in front of my vehicle. I'm going to put my groceries away. Well, if I was a perpetrator, what would I do at this moment with a person like me and me holding a child, by the hand? How can I prevent it? Am I vulnerable at this point? How can I prevent myself and that child from getting hurt? What do I need to do first? Well, first you got to protect the child, put the precious cargo away, in a safe location. And if it's inside the vehicle, then that might have to happen. Protect the child first. But this is the type of thinking that you have to have. You always need to get into the potential perpetrator's shoes and in their mindset, and ask yourself, am I an easy target? Am I vulnerable at this point? Start thinking that way, and be aware again of things that you may not be able to see with your physical eyes, but you're able to capture it through your sixth sense, through your third eye, through your higher self. You're seeing it from the perspective of an eagle, and you can see everything that's happening, through your soul. Don't trust that easily. That's another thing. Especially strangers. There was, I think, a story, gosh, maybe a couple of years ago, where there was a group of people that were going around giving women business cards. Hey, they would meet them in the parking lot or somewhere, and they would give them a business card, and the woman would take it innocently because, hey, what a nice man. He gave me his business card because he heard me talk about that I needed this, whatever. And the next thing you know, the guy approaches, hey, I didn't want to intrude, but I happened to hear the conversation, and here's my business card in case you need help with that. I do that kind of thing. So the business card might be a generic card, might say something corporation or whatever, probably all bogus. The point is that the card would have some kind of chemical on it. The woman would touch it, It would go in her bloodstream, and then she would be followed to her vehicle, and then she would be kidnapped. This was a thing a couple of years ago. That happened to me during that time frame. I went to a parking lot for a grocery store. Something happened. I think my car was making noises. Came out of my car, go into the grocery store. A guy approaches me and says, "Gosh, I heard that you have some trouble with your car. Hey, I've got a shop around the corner. I'd love to, help you, take care of that. If you need help, here's my business card." And then that 6 cents popped in, right? I had heard it in the news, thank God. Um, Maybe if I hadn't, I might have been more willing to take that card. But something told me, obviously, uh-oh, might be a copycat or it might be the real McCoy. I don't want to be caught in this. That told me, you know what? That's okay. Thank you so much. And I didn't take the card. And he kept insisting too. He kept saying, yeah, take the card. Take the card. I mean, it's that way you can reach me and I won't charge you anything. No, thank you. I appreciate it. And I walked away. When I came back, of course, I had to look at my car and make sure that there was nothing wrong with it, no slashed tires, nothing on the windshield, and that his vehicle was no longer there. Uh, Again, you walk to your car and you take a look at your surroundings, make sure that there's no strange individual lurking around or in a vehicle trying to you know, trying to sum up how they can best take advantage of you. That is very important. And again, if I was a soldier in the battlefield and I'm looking around to make sure that there's no mines, that there's no enemy hiding behind a tree, this is the same thing. We are at that point where anybody can be your enemy. And so you've got to take things a little bit more seriously, things that you took for granted before. That trusting, neighborly type of attitude used to work many years ago, and it's not working anymore. A lot of people are falling victims, not only to harm, where they're taking their cars and personal property from them, but they're kidnapped, their children are taken and other things. So you can do something about it, okay? Um, let's talk a little bit about children. Um, with respect to children, you do all of the above that I just said, right? But also don't let them become victims. I see a lot of people, I drive around my neighborhood all the time, and I see children, like small ones, playing in the front lawn, and I don't see any adults. I don't know if the adult is looking out the window, um, maybe on the side yard. I don't know, but they're not directly present. So that if somebody would walk up, and if I was the perpetrator and I would stop the car and just jump out of the car, run and grab them, they can't do anything if they're, inside the home looking through the window, making sure little Johnny's okay. They can't do a thing. I'm already half gone by the time they're out the door. So don't let your child or a child play outside without any supervision. That is like you're asking for it. It's like putting $100 million on top of a table and saying, a little sign says, "Take me, I'm free," type of thing. Don't put the child in that position or put yourself in that position. The need to be in close proximity of a child, especially if they're playing front or backyard, because you don't know that people are willing to jump the backyard uh, to be able to grab a child. Again, child trafficking is $32 billion a year. Organs are 1.7 billion a year. And if I am the type of person that wants to make quick money, jumping a fence in a backyard or crossing the street and going to your front yard and grabbing your child may not be a problem. Okay, so think about that. And again, be vigilant always with a child. think like a perpetrator. If if you have no scruples, if you have no morals, if you are, practicing Satanism, if you are on the wrong side of the law, and I don't know what law because the law is on the wrong side now anyway, but if you're willing to do anything for money, then you're willing to hurt a child. And so you've got to think like a perpetrator. What would they do? What am I doing, by putting the child in this position or that, like, are they playing by themselves? Are they in the stroller and I'm preoccupied? How am I facilitating the potential perpetrator so that they can get away with taking this child? So you got to think like them, all right, so that you know what you should do. This is like a chess game, right? What move do you need to do so that you can come out ahead? They're thinking the same way. They're playing a chess game too. Okay, so it's whoever plays the game better. There's more right now, due to the internet, there's a lot more people that are falling into the category of being predators, pedophiles, traffickers, okay, than you would probably care to know about or even believe. And it's a club. You remember, they're all protecting each other. The police is also protecting them because they are part of the club. Um, Teach the children about bad people. Teach them about what a predator is. Teach them what predators are capable of doing. And unfortunately, it's scary, but you might want to scare them so that they are less likely to want to talk to strangers. Tell them how they're lured, right? They lure them with candy. They lure them with cute little bunnies or cute little puppies or cute kittens or whatever, with stories. They lure them with fear. Something happened to your parents. Whatever they can use to lure them, if it's not a parent or someone that is given permission to talk to that child or play with the child or pick up the child from school, they have no business talking to that person, and they need to be taught this. This is extremely important. They need to be taught about what it is to feel uncomfortable, what makes them feel uncomfortable, bad touches, inappropriate language, things that a child should not be listening to or talking about. You need to inoculate them from this and inoculate them also from the storyline that something will happen to them if they don't keep the secret. Something will happen to their family if they don't keep a secret. Let them know that that is not true and that they must tell. They must tell because that's how they keep the family safe and how they keep them safe. You need to spin the story so that it favors the family and favors the child, not the perpetrator. And it's also important that you all know the children's friends and their families, not just the friends, but who their family members are. Because a lot of the incidents of rape and other things happen through family members, not only of the child's family members, but also a neighbor or a friend. So it's important you as an adult get to know these people. And again, use discernment, that sixth sense to know if a person is legit, if they're up and up, if they're morally clean, all these things, because this happens anywhere. They may come up or across as a very decent human being. They might have an incredible, responsible job. And then the next thing you know, they're causing harm. Or they may have some kind of a record of causing harm and you may not be aware of it. Then the other thing is to get involved in the child's school if they're going to school. Participate in any activities that they have. If it's PTA meeting, if it's a soccer game, whatever it is, get to know what is going on in those activities, get to know the teachers and the principal, get to know who all these people are, their coaches, because again, we are all aware that teachers are not always the best role models, right? They're coming into the school with certain agendas, and we need to, be that barrier. We need to be the police at that point that is going to take things in our own hands with respect to that type of bad curriculum that is teaching things that are immoral and it might be against our religious faith and all that. So we have the right to speak up. We have the right to do something. They're telling us we don't. They're trying to indoctrinate us, and by pushing a certain type of narrative and creating it into policy that the children now belong to the state type of thing. Very similar to communism. And that's what the communists have done in the past, and they still do. They do that in Cuba and other communist countries. They take the children, they indoctrinate the children. Okay. Don't let that happen. We're still at the point where we can speak up, even though a lot of the parents are considered, the T word, right? What happened in the 9/11 situation where those group of people, the T word, they blamed the T's, and then that's why, I don't want to use the word because I don't want to be flagged, but I think you guys are all smart enough to understand what I'm using, what I'm trying to say. So the parents have become that. So definitely get involved with their school activities and get to know the teachers. And if possible, please homeschool. You might say, well, I don't know anything about math. I have no idea about history. A lot of parents do get together and they hire a teacher that will teach a group of kids, that want, their parents want their kids to go through homeschooling. So these kids get together, the parents get together and of course pay the teacher. The kids then get together in a home, and then that teacher goes to that home, teaches the children, and then I think they alternate every week or every month. They go to a different home, and so they get a different type of experience. So think about that possibility, and that way you have a little bit more control of the curriculum. There could be cameras inside the home to make sure that the teacher is up and behaving correctly, the kids are behaving correctly, and yes, so you have at least they're not going to be indoctrinated into some kind of dystopian type of society. That type of behavior is not acceptable. Never send a child on an errand by himself. Again, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for that child to disappear, and that is a very not good situation for anybody, especially the child. Yes, we all kind of already know what happens, right? A child can be used for all kinds of different reasons, not only labor, slavery type of thing, sex slavery. They're used for adrenochrome production and, of course, organ harvesting and satanic rituals where they actually eat the flesh. So please don't put your child into that situation. Don't send a child on an errand by himself. If you're going to go on an errand, please have them go with adults that you are aware of, that or you take them to the store or something like that. But don't put the child in that type of predicament. And know the routes that a child takes when they're going to school or any other thing. They shouldn't be walking by themselves. But if they walk to school, that they really should walk with other kids or with adults. Don't let them walk to school by themselves. Wait for a school bus if they take the school bus. Wait for the school bus to get there. Watch them get on the school bus while you're close to them, and then wait for the school bus to come home and have them come out, and you're watching them as they come out of the school bus. And again, this is micromanaging, but this is what has to happen. This is precious cargo, okay? And that child, you have no idea the suffering that goes on. I mean, we are not capable of even comprehending the type of torture that goes on. Okay? This is just common sense, folks. This is what has to happen. Okay? And I just don't even know how to articulate this further. Have the child learn, of course, if they're very young, their name, their full name, their address, their phone number. Give them a secret code so that they can ask anybody who might come up to them and say, "Hey, I was sent by your mom and dad to take you to see them in their hospital. They were in a terrible accident." Well, okay, what's my code? What's the code? Give them a code that only they know, that you would, if you had to send somebody from the family or somebody that they may not be aware of, that person should give the code to the child that would confirm that they were sent by you. Babysitters, daycare centers, they're infamous sometimes for mistreating children. Babysitters for raping children and hurting them very, very badly. Please vet all these people, vet all these institutions, check references, do background checks, do whatever you need to do to make sure that these people are up and up. Have cameras in the house. Always have cameras in the outside and the inside of the house. Yes, all this is costly, but the price to pay if a child is hurt is considerably worse. It's a lot worse. Please do this. Don't leave a child unattended with a teenager, especially an adult male or a teenage male. Teenage males tend to be very promiscuous at that age. They're experimenting. They're exploring their world too, and a little child is just easy to manipulate and do what they want to do with them. Don't let that happen. Adult males, if you don't know them, the child really should not be with them. And it's bad enough that there are males that we do know that sometimes are directly in our family that are capable of hurting a child. So definitely don't do it with somebody you don't know. Don't leave that child alone. And be willing to defend a child, whatever that means, whatever it takes. What does that mean? Does it mean screaming? Does it mean scratching them, punching them, using some kind of item to hit them with? I don't know what that looks like, but whatever it is that you need to do, then do it. Because otherwise the consequences are really grave. You need to be able to defend the child. And lastly, I will talk about spiritual protection. Pray. Pray for the child and pray with the child. Teach the child how to pray. The art of prayer. Teach them how to pray. It's really important that they learn from a young age to be connected to a higher realm, a realm where their soul is intact, where they're protected, where they're shielded. Visualize that child surrounded by a ball of white light, for example. Have them have the violet flame over them. And these are terms that you may not be aware of right now, may not be familiar with. I strongly suggest that you start checking into it. Have them surrounded by the violet flame, which is a transmuting flame that it transmutes evil and dark forces and darkness into light. It just transmutes it. It's also a flame that protects and heals. Be able to use it. And I will talk about that a little bit more. And surround them with the electronic circle of the mighty I am presence. This particular circle is impenetrable against anything psychic, anything dark, anything. An atom bomb could explode right next to you, and if you're in it, nothing happens to you. You're completely shielded. So this is really important. I would surround that electronic circle with mirrors that are magnifying mirrors, that anything evil that is seeing itself through the mirror of whatever their intention of evil is magnified to them a millionfold. And then cloak them with the cloak of invisibility so that they're not detected or visible to any psychic or demonic forces. And then, of course, surround them by angelic and archangelic forces, the army of Michael, so that even they have whatever evil wants to get to that child has to get through that army first. That's what I do to shield myself. That's what I do to shield my loved ones. I don't need to be next to them to do it. I do that. There is no time, there is no space, there is nothing that is in between my intention to shield them and protect them and that individual. It's just instantaneous. Doesn't matter what part of the planet they're on. So I strongly suggest you start doing that. If you don't know how to do it, my book, Getting Back to Source, Tools for Connection, Protection, and Empowerment, is a manual of these techniques and shielding devices. I've actually also put it in illustration form so that you can see how these are applied and what their meaning are. So, you can pick up a copy of Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or whatever, but you can get the same information from a YouTube video that I did on these particular protection tools and techniques. I'll try to find it and put it on the link below. And again, pick up a copy of the book because you will have it as a resource material, not only for the ability to see, well, what does this term mean? Because there's a great index in the back telling you, okay, well, this is what this means, this is what it does. But it's a reference guide for you, a manual to have always to look at and, oh gosh, I don't remember how to do that. And what's the purpose of that? These are the times we're in, right? You've got to be able to get your hands on tools that will help you navigate these terrible, very dangerous waters and to be able to protect not only yourself, but your loved ones. I strongly suggest that you start practicing these techniques, building that spiritual muscle so that now you have the ability to go into the world and be the light, right? And help protect others and also empower others, because this is how we're going to win this. We can win this by being afraid. They want us to be afraid. And by being afraid, then we're cooped up in the house. We don't want to move. We don't want to walk. We're not aware of our surroundings. We're not aware how this evil morphs and is able to twist itself and shape itself into a different thing where you trust that thing. And now, it really is no longer a trustworthy thing. And now it's biting you, right? So learn how to discern. And discernment, again, comes by practicing discernment, by being connected directly with the highest power there is of creation, okay? And coming from that power to be able to be that force in the world that is going to eradicate this darkness. So I strongly suggest that you, keep up with this channel. Join us at shatteringthematrix.com, where we put up amazing articles of what's going on in the world, and also we provide empowering techniques as well. We're not in this alone. We're in this together. The more of us that wake up, the better chances we have of dismantling the darkness and bringing the light. And then, yes, ascending. At that point is when we've graduated. Love you guys very much. Keep in touch, and we'll talk to you soon.